Okay, we'll continue on with our reading of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. So if you missed the first broadcast and you don't know anything about Lord Chaitanya and the purpose and intention of this divine avatar's descent, watch the last video. And if you already know, well, we'll just continue on here and discuss further. So this is Adi Leela chapter 1. I worship their lordship Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, whose long arms extend down to their knees, whose beautiful complexions are radiant yellow of molten gold, and whose elongated eyes are like red lotuses. They are the topmost Brahmins and the guardians of religious principles for this age, the munificent benefactors of all living entities, and the most compassionate incarnation of Godhead. They initiated the congregational chanting of the names of Lord Krishna. So let's discuss this verse here, this particular sentence, or paragraph actually. In the last video, I mentioned that worship of their lordships, Lord Chaitanya, is not like a thing where you're forced to worship. Oh, you worship. Why should you worship? And worship somebody, and you're being forced to do it. It's a matter of the heart. The heart, just from contact with the divine name, the divine Leela, the divine qualities of this particular incarnation, one's heart begins to melt with devotion for the divine. Say the divine level, the Great Spirit, whatever. People call it differently. Yet, because this awakening is caused by the presence of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, one feels this devotion for Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And that was his purpose for coming, was to awaken our soul, individual souls, natural dormant devotion for this supreme divine consciousness. And it's manifested in the form of Lord Chaitanya. And we talked a little bit about that in the last video, about how Lord Chaitanya represents the divine in form, in a particular form. Okay. So this worship, it becomes from the heart, and it's very beautiful, and it's not like worshiping and adoring something of this world. If you adore money, if you adore another person who is just still just a human being, another human being, there's karmic effects. I mean, it's also very wonderful. You fall in love and all this, but there's an edge to it. See, there's always going to be problems and all of this. With falling in love with the divine personality who is coming from the eternal level of consciousness, spiritual level, truly, beyond all material forms and all of this. There's no karma in it. It just frees you from karma. You become liberated, free like this. See? So that's the idea. They are the topmost Brahmins and the guardians of religious principles for this age. So religious principles, are they just ordinary religious principles like you should do this and you shouldn't do that? You should wash your hands after a meal, you wash your mouth, otherwise you're going to hell. Is it that kind of religious principle that most religions teaching more or less stuff like that? No. The religion for this age was what it said in the last sentence, initiating the congregational chanting of the names Lord Krishna. We're doing this every Friday night here in Tucson. And the people that I'm chanting with, most of them don't know who is this Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna, but we're chanting. Why? Well, because this is sitting down and chanting, we're performing the real religious principles of this age, which is for people who don't even know that the deeper revelations of Lord Chaitanya, like that, or Krishna, and we're chanting that mantra. Krishna it's the same person personality, spiritual personality is Lord Chaitanya. Get into that in another this discussion, either in this one or in another one somewhere. It produces the effect of this liberation very quickly, where you feel free of your problems and sufferings in the world, and mental problems and emotional problems. You just lifted out of that. That's the religion of the age. Isn't that for everybody universally? You don't have to belong to any group. You don't have to belong to this group, or you don't have to belong to a bhakti yoga particular religion, or it's anybody who gets together and chants this name is performing the religion of this age. Not any particular group. You just form any group. I just advertised on Craigslist, and a group just started. We got 5 people, and then other people are asking. Yeah, everybody wants to feel good, right? And everybody can. We don't have to, like, there's a person called Krishna Das. He's going all over the world chanting, and he doesn't put any religious connotations on it. He just said, let's get together, chant, and just feel free, feel liberated, feel love, feel devotion for this divine. So that's the religion of the age. Now, if you want to go as far as like the extended spiritual happiness of that, is to understand more, not only the name that we're chanting like Krishna, but to understand the form of Krishna, the actual form that he brought into this world that produces this amazing effect just from chanting his name. Well, that name is connected to a form, a spiritual form. And that form is spiritual form. I got to keep saying that. It's not material form. That spiritual form is connected to spiritual qualities that are contained in that particular form, in that name. And the divine Leela and activity, the activities that particular deity, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, performed in this world, is connected to all of those things. It's connected to the Leela, it's connected to the name and the qualities. So if one wants to experience ecstasy and bliss and love and devotion and liberation and freedom and mukti, and beyond mukti is these spiritual feelings and compassion for your brothers, and just feeling jubilant and many other liberated spiritual emotions, then you can chant the name. And if you want to experience it from these other aspects, it's connected. You can just read the Leela like we're doing, and discuss it, and just talk about it like we're doing. And you just feel this spiritual bliss and happiness, and your face starts to light up, and you may start to laugh and cry with joy, not bad cry, not a sorrowful cry. Well, that's another subject. But anyway, it becomes like that. The qualities, we discussed the qualities of this avatar and his associates, and you start to feel this spiritual liberation and compassion and love and devotion. The spiritual law of this, it's all connected. And that's why this particular path, or the religion of the age, starts with the congregational chanting of the name that's connected to the form and the qualities and the divine Leela, and it all awakens this devotional ecstasy. That's the true religion. See? And it starts with a name, because everybody can chant this name. But not everybody can chant this Leela. Like, if you don't know Lord Chaitanya, you think, well, what is this? And you misunderstand and all of this stuff. But see, everybody can just chant the name. You don't have to explain anything. You just chant this name and feel the bliss and devotion and love awaken progressively. And then later on, somebody may explain and say, well, you want to try another? It's just like having a tasty meal and having, well, it's all food, right? Yet each food has a specific taste, and it's nice to taste it together, you know, as just taste this preparation, that preparation. Well, that's how it is. There's the preparation of the name and the preparation of the form, and it's all spiritual food, and it produces liberation and ecstasy and devotional feelings, but it's a tasty preparation. So it all starts with the name, because universally everyone can chant it, but not everybody will be open or say, well, this Lord Chaitanya will have all these misunderstandings. If you've chanted the name enough, and then you just happen to like the persons that are into the Leela and the qualities, and then you like to hear from them, then you can begin to understand this incomprehensible Leela. It's only can be passed on by those who have this devotional awakening. They become like witnesses, and that this is really true, and they get revelations and a good way to explain it, because it's impossible to explain this. Only by divine capacity and divine empowerment can such a personality like Sri Krishna Chaitanya be somewhat explained. And we'll go on explaining it for years. I've made 10,000 videos trying to explain Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and still haven't come to the extent of it. And it's been purifying ever since. You know, it's how it is with this. What we've explained so far in the beginning of this class are is the most difficult subject to learn. It's just to understand this name of this divine name, how it's spiritual, how it's connected to the form and the qualities and the divine Leela. If anybody gets that, you've learned something that people haven't learned in millions of lifetimes, often, unless you make the proper connection. And this avatar came to start like a renaissance of understanding this very, very deep, transcendental spiritual subject that's very rarely, dispersed in this world. Knowledge of it is not dispersed in the world. And anyway, this is the time. Millions of people are learning about this avatar now. Millions. It started 500 years ago, and gradually this more of an awakening is happening all over the world now. Yeah, fascinating, amazing, huh? Okay. So they're the topmost brahmanas and the guardians of the religious principles of the age. Topmost brahmanas. So the way the Leela works of these divine incarnations, due to the deeper purpose of the divine incarnation, she chooses, or she, it can be he, she, like Radha and Krishna. They choose a particular way to manifest in this world. It's kind of like a role that they play. They're not really, just like an actor who goes on stage may be playing a role, but is he really fully identified? Well, maybe he's fully identified to play the part, but he knows he's just an actor. See? It's just like Sri Krishna Chaitanya came in the role of a Brahmin. Because especially coming into worldly society, see, this divine presence is so conscious and so deeply conscious, more than human beings. But to fit into society and interact with a society, you have to take on a certain role. So he came in the role of a Brahmin in this incarnation. See, this divine presence came as Sri Krishna Chaitanya with that name. He came, the same divine presence came 5,000 years before that as Krishna. And came in the role of, actually took a few roles there. He came first as a Vaishya, living in a very simple family of cowherd men and women, and they just lived in a little village. came like this. Divine incarnation came like this, like Jesus. He was born in a barn, and he was coming from a carpenter family, very simple, nothing aristocratic. See, but these are divine incarnations. Okay? So it's a role for them. See? Like Jesus, if you got a relation with Jesus, like Jesus, he came into the Jewish religion, and he said salvation is through the Jews, the Jewish religion. It didn't mean that Jesus was only for the Jews, even though he played that role. But look where Jesus is being connected by everybody. Many people are getting, if you just get the spiritual side of Jesus and get out of this sectarian view, very good. Ultimately, you got to get out of, see the real, who is Jesus. It actually is connected to this avatar, and all these divine avatars are connected on the deeper level. Okay, so Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, even though he was a divine personality, he came in the role of a Brahmin, like the Brahmin caste. See? And he came with a brother. Now that relation is eternal. See, he has always eternally a brother. See, relationships are wonderful. Even here, people want to have relationships. Who likes to be alone? Right? Well, even when our energy, remember, last talk we talked about you cannot destroy energy. It can only be transformed. You can't even destroy form. It will be transformed into other forms. After, it goes back to the earth, and then it comes back as a form. See? Same thing, brotherhood and sisterhood and relationships are transmuted and transformed into the higher spiritual eternal manifestation of it. This is one of the intentions of this avatar, to teach that. Even though he took like a material form as a Brahmin, had a brother, seemed like a material relation, but it wasn't. Internally, they acted in the spiritual ways, often. Unless, they can also act in seemingly ordinary ways. But everything about them is extraordinary in their relations. Okay? These relationships, they bring out many qualities in the relationship, many activities. And these are all spiritually enlivening to the soul. They energize our soul. Okay? So that's why he came in the form of a Brahman. To start creating relationship between himself and even new people, the world. Krishna came 5,000 years ago, and he had a different relationships. Like he came first, was actually raised in a little village called Vrindavan as a Vaishya caste. And then, later on, he went and became like a great king, Kshatriya king. Okay, so he came in that, and all the time he's relating to others and people, and everybody's getting blissed out and purified like crazy. Okay. And these incarnations know that when their followers and their associates record this, that people will be purified just by reading the Leela. Devotion will awaken in their hearts for the divine level of consciousness, this divine presence, who will feel this devotion. See, they know that. That's why we're reading this here. I've had many people, they watch the videos. These are all being recorded. They even watch the videos, and they start to feel this love for this. What is this? It's so powerful, and this divine love awakens. Okay? Just from watching the video. See, this is the potency of it. This is how we know it's real. If you can't feel it, how do you know it's real? It's just an intellectual thing. But if you start feeling divine emotions, you know it's real. O Lord, you are the eternal truth, past, present, and future, and you appeared as the son of Sachi and Jagannath Mishra. This sentence is very deep. Let's go over it. O Lord, now Vrindavan Das Kaur, he's addressing Sri Krishna Chaitanya, O Lord. And this is it's not like, oh Lord, in fear. Like one level of relation with the divine is in fear, because the divine is very powerful, and it's like, they teach in religions, you must fear God. Right? Now Vrindavan Das Thakur has got a relationship where it's very devotional. Oh Lord, very intimate. See, that divine presence, especially when you start to understand the form of it, how it manifests, it wants this intimate relation with us. See, so that we can dance together. There's the soul, and then the concept that's taught in Bhagavad Gita, the super soul. Super soul is Lord Chaitanya. Super soul is also another form of the super soul, is Vishnu. Another form of the super soul is Krishna. Another form of the super soul is Ram. They have basically the same quality. It's divine. It gives life, it gives energy. All, like in the last video we discussed, all creative individuals that do extraordinary things, all inventors, all deep philosophers, all extraordinary people in this world that are of excellence derive their extraordinary abilities from some level of connection with that divine presence. See, some level of connection with it. Even though they may name it differently. American Indian says, oh yes, the Great Spirit. See, it gives me their power. The shaman that gets the power from the Great Spirit. See, or they have another name for it. But it's something greater than themselves. And who is themselves? See, this is taught by persons like Eckhart Tolle, who's teaching awareness really nicely. Oh, this self, you, is in his terminology, is this presence, alert presence, awareness, the watcher. See, the watcher, who we are is this deeper presence, but it's known by various names. Who the super soul is even a deeper presence, or a realization of the presence, that is also known by many names. Super soul, Christ consciousness, Great Spirit. Right? So the Great Spirit, let's take that term. Great Spirit. What does it infer? Oh, there's the Great Spirit, and then there's all these little spirits. That's the essence of what is the absolute truth. There's the Great Spirit can take many forms. The Great Spirit, cosmic consciousness, Brahman, also Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna, Ramachandra, even more personal forms like that. The burning bush that Moses talked to, turned his hair white. Whatever. See? But it manifests as super extraordinary qualities. That's how we know it's the super soul. The soul of all souls. The God of gods. All demigods. Demigods is even like when we become self-realized, we become of the stature of a demigod. You become more powerful than the ordinary human beings because of that connection. Okay? Many people have it and are calling it different names. Wayne Dyer, he used to call it the source. He might be getting different realizations about it now. You know what? Can you come back in about a half an hour? I'm doing something important now. Okay, let me come, okay? I'll come and get you. See? So there are different manifestations. There are different manifestations of this source. and it's known differently by different people. Just like, for example, a person like Wayne Dyer, he's relating to this source in a certain way as source. And he's become extraordinary as a person. He does wonderful things. He's making a big difference in the world, sharing higher consciousness teachings and principles. Many hundreds of people, or thousands, or millions are coming to him to learn about higher consciousness. And there are so many teachers like this. But the universal principle is they're deriving their power from a higher, deeper source. They can't do it on their own. This is the principle of soul and supersoul in the vision of the Gita. There's the soul that is empowered by the supersoul. See, one faulty conclusion that is a mistaken one, but it's okay. It helps us understand, is the Zen idea. The Zen idea is evolved to the consciousness that I'm God, you're God, we're like gods, but we're not really the deeper super soul, but we have a connection and relationship with it when we start to awaken up, and it makes us more extraordinary in our activities. So the Zen idea, basically, is that we're all gods, and I'm beating my heart. You ask a Zen master, how are you doing it? He'll say, well, I don't know. But that's the way it is. And that up to that point of realization is, I'm beating my heart, but I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm walking. You know how you walk? How are you doing it? See, nobody knows. See, so because it's not really us doing it, we're the soul. The super soul is actually in charge of doing that. And they show this by using the story of Vishnu in the Eastern religion. I'll get out of the religion thing. Eastern philosophy of truth is Vishnu maintains all the bodies of everybody. It's Vishnu, this form of the super soul, that is keeping everyone maintained. He's keeping everything going in this world. The sun rotating around, or everything revolving around the suns and many suns and everything. Well, there's a deeper consciousness. It's called the super soul, the soul of all souls, keeping it all together. People have various levels of realization of that. One manifestation of that super soul is Lord Chaitanya. And that can you see, get a sense of how powerful it is to understand this Lord Chaitanya, because you begin to connect and associate with something very extraordinary. And when this devotion and love for the divine plane of existence awakens, you're now even beyond liberation. You've reached a stage and a step beyond even mukti. Okay? Just by becoming attached to Lord Chaitanya, or attached to chanting the name Krishna, or attached to the name of Lord Chaitanya. See? Oh Lord, you are the eternal truth. See, what we just explained is basically an explanation of what is universal truth. It's all really the same. You can go look at that movie again. I'm sure most of us have seen it, Avatar. It's basically about the same idea of the conception of the truth, but just explained in a very nice way that many people can relate to. Even my brother, who's not much into, he loved that movie. See, Avatar was the idea that there was this tree, and all souls entered into this tree at death. See, and they were all. It was like this tree held everything, and all the souls were in it, and were part of that tree. See? So that tree is a representing of the oversoul, the supersoul. And all of us individual souls, we are empowered by that. We are given life by the tree of life, the supreme tree. See? It's a fascinating subject. It goes on forever. See, you are the eternal truth. So this is one wonderful, juicy manifestation of the truth. Now, the uniqueness of this manifestation is, if you went to Vishnu, say you're worshiping Vishnu, you will not get the same dispensation of the kind of this divine devotional emotion from the form of that truth from Vishnu as you would get with Lord Chaitanya. This is why it says, you are the most merciful incarnation. Why? Because this universal truth has had many manifestations in the world. He came as a burning bush to Moses and he gave the revelation of the Ten Commandments. Okay, well, emotionally or spiritually emotionally, it's what was dispersed by that manifestation of the universal truth was not like what Lord Chaitanya is giving. Because all of these divine incarnations give what gift they are here they want to give, and their manifestation is meant to give. Okay. So Vishnu would give some like a feeling of devotion and a purification and liberation, like this kind of level. A level of it. See, like Jesus also gives a kind of being with him, a kind of devotion and a love, a certain kind of experience. He even said, anybody who believes in me will be liberated, be free of sin. See, this is pretty much the extent of it. But it goes deeper than that. Lord Chaitanya said, anybody who becomes attracted to me, he didn't say exactly like that, or so others who know explain those who become attracted to Lord Chaitanya will awaken the very condensed loving devotion that's been very rarely dispersed by any particular form of the divine incarnation, ever. You will get that. Okay. So this love is very rare, is very deep, very intimate. It's devoid of all fear. It makes one feel very intimate with Lord Chaitanya, with God, with the divine, with the great, very intimate relation. Many deep revelations come, deeper than mukti, deeper than, see, if you want to know if what I'm saying is true or anything like this, does anything that you're hearing in these videos help and assist to explain what has already been explained? Because if it does explain mukti and liberation, or even what the Christians are sharing, if it explains Jesus better and Jesus consciousness better, then the revelations coming here in these videos, and there are many, are coming from a deeper source and revelation in connection with a deeper incarnation, manifestation, and that's Lord Chaitanya. See, anyone who develops a relationship with Lord Chaitanya, which means your heart just awakens, you just fall in love with its divine being. You get ideas and revelations that are very difficult for people to understand, often, but also many wonderful things come that help explain everything that's already been explained, and people are still trying to understand. And that includes the Bible, that includes the Vedas, the Bhagavatam, this Leela, everything, deeper understanding of these things that have already been shared become explained even better. That's how you know if something is not just sounding true, but is true. And the best confirmation is if your heart just melts with this devotion awakening from hearing such explanations, or you feel this incredible bliss listening to explanations, then it's like, well, it must be true. This was the way that liberated souls began to accept Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya 500 years ago. There's a pastime where these persons that were liberated souls already, they got in connection with Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and they said, well, we can't quite understand everything he says. It's a lot of new stuff coming that had never been revealed before, new revelations coming. Yet we accept him, because when we listen to these discourses, even we don't understand it properly, we're feeling a happiness greater than our discussions about you're not your body, you're not your story, you're not the things that many people are talking about now even. See, they say we're feeling a greater jubilation, a greater spiritual happiness and emotion, a spiritual level of transformed emotion than we feel in discussing about liberated topics alone, like topics of mukti and this. Matter of fact, you get that with chanting. If you just chant the name, not necessarily even the lila like we're doing here, just the name raises you above the platform of suffering and liberation from suffering and freedom from sin. You get an experience of more than that, this devotional platform called bhakti yoga. Yeah. Yeah. So if you think you can apply this same thing with these talks here. If you listening up to this point, if you're getting an experience of something that gives you a greater happiness than what you're having in your normal daily activities, then it must be good, must be right, must be true. You see how it works? Even though you may not understand it. I don't often understand everything. And it's like, well, I understand a lot that comes through. See, that's really the test. That's how to understand. You're not getting like jerked around by some manipulating preacher or something. Being controlled by some psychological thing. Or hypnotized. See, it's how do you feel? It's all about that. How do you feel listening to these kind of discussions? All I know is I'm feeling better than just my discussions about awareness. I like doing that too. But this is even more juicy and more, I feel a greater sense of jubilation. Okay, so that's how a good standard to know if you're in the right place. Actually, this is a good place to stop for part 2 because we spoke a lot, already. Okay, so thank you very much for joining. And if there's any questions, you can put them on the YouTube or the Google Plus, and they'll get back to me. And you can join us live too. This is a live program actually. It's being broadcast live on YouTube and Google Plus. Thank you. Have a nice day.